Holy dude. My gosh.
First of all, I'd like to thank you all for coming here. For us in Greece, it's supper time, but I guess my fellow Greeks did a very big sacrifice to come and be here with us. Basically, this connection was generated when Michael and Eduardo somehow suggested to me to build something like of a database. And I spoke with one of the three presenters, the one who is invisible so far, Nikos. And he was very, very open-minded in sharing with the whole European group and the UAP Check group the data he has collected. And he invited me also to talk with Ion Panidis and, of course, with our new guest star that we have tonight, Orestis. So a few words about the guys. I have circulated around the CVs of everybody, so I won't talk about myself because all the time I'm getting stuck with the fact that I got to know Eduardo 1976 and the whole kabam started. So anyway, so Ion has been a member of a lot of ufological groups in the 80s, and he has done an apprenticeship with the most important researchers in Greece. Currently, he has a very important role because he's the custodian of the historical archives of the second most important group in Greece, that it was called CESEP, and a lot of material from the very well Greek author Socrates Ekaterinidis. He has been doing radio for about 30 years in the area of the unexplained and the UFOs. He has written articles in various magazines. He has produced DVDs on the unexplained. And of course, he has been in many TV shows in Greece as a panelist. And the best of all is that he's still actively involved into the UFO research as of today. Nikos has graduated from the Technical University of Athens. He's a naval engineer, and he works as a senior officer in the Navy in the submarine sector. So you may understand why he might not want any visibility. He has been involved with UFOs and UAPs from the 90s, and many years after his research, he founded the group that right now actually, Orestis is part of that group. The group is called Er.E.N.Zo. I am avoiding the translation because it really makes no sense. In 2017, he did something really nice. He founded the Unlocking the Truth Project, which is an online publication. And lately, what he wants to do, and he was to interview the most important contributors to the field and post these interviews on his website. Now, Orestis, as we said, is the new kid in the block. He's a young MD. Right now, he's doing his specialization in psychiatry. He's very, very interested in UFOs and UAPs. He's most probably one of the most active members in Nikos' group. And of course, he's doing research under the guidance of Ion. Basically, then it's yours truly, but you know everything about me, so I'm not going to steal any more minutes. I think I will pass directly the podium to Orestis for his smashing presentation on Greek ufology.
Sure, thank you. Without further ado, I think we can begin right now. So, hello everyone. I would like to thank you, first of all, for the time and effort that you've invested in attending, and also to thank Mr. Russo and UAP Check for organizing today's meeting, giving us this wonderful opportunity to speak on the topic of UAP in Greece, since it has produced several noteworthy cases and important bodies of information that will be very beneficial to any researcher exploring it. My name is Orestis Lazanakis, and I am a doctor in the branch of psychiatry. I was involved in UAP research from a young age, but in recent years, I have increased my efforts and joined various local teams that study the phenomenon on a larger scale and in a highly organized manner. Today, I will be covering the topic of UAP in Greece, how it has affected public opinion, and how we Greek investigators engage with it. I will do this in three parts. First, we will go through a decade-by-decade review of the phenomenon in Greece from 1946 till today. Then I will talk about the methodology that we employ in our investigations, and then I will close with an important discovery of ours. The history of UAP in Greece begins shortly after the summer of 1946, with mass sightings of ghost rockets taking place at the northern regions. The peak was during the opening days of September, when 12 of them were sighted by both Greek and British army officials in the vicinity. This provoked official reactionary statements from the then Minister of Foreign Affairs, Stavropoulos, as well as from the then Prime Minister himself, Konstantinos Tsaldaris, who confirmed to his media representatives that unknown missiles had indeed been sighted over Greece. The Minister of Foreign Affairs went even further, announcing to the Reuters agency that he had tasked the authorities to investigate the origin of the mysterious objects. The results of that program have yet to be publicized. Even though we will probably never know the results of that program, we see that the issue was recognized as being real by the highest forms of local authority at the time. This political reaction sparked the curious spirits of the people, who would keep witnessing flights of the strange objects until the term flying saucer would enter the norm. At the time, during the worldwide 1954 wave, even though UAP increased all over the country, it seems to have particularly become attracted to the East Aegean islands, and especially to the island of Lesbos. There, on October 10th, 1954, a father and son were out for hunting when they saw a cigar-shaped object moving horizontally before separating in two, after which the two objects appeared to move vertically at a steady distance to each other until they were lost in the horizon. The date is important, as that same day, no less than 11 cases of landings were reported in France, Belgium, Germany, and Lebanon. With such frequent occurrences, naturally, more and more people with a science background would eventually become involved in the research. By the time of the 1964 wave in the US, when efforts were being made to colonize or conquer the moon, and with many theories on the existence of extraterrestrial life being put forward, Greece too has experienced an increase in awareness of that aspect of the phenomenon, especially with the visit of Arthur Clarke and Werner von Braun in the 16th Astronautical Conference that took place in the city of Athens. In the face of a time when the scientific community was largely opposed to the postulations of the phenomenon, the academic physician and electronic warfare researcher Pavlos Adorinis of the University of Athens was revealed to have been part of a secret committee to investigate the ghost rockets phenomenon in Greece. Despite the fact that during a radio interview back in the 40s, he had suggested that the ghost rockets were a foreign country's display of power, now in the 60s, in two subsequent radio interviews, he instead suggested that the answer to the phenomenon is extraterrestrial life, and that the flying saucers were alien craft that monitor our planet. This change of hearts reminds us of J. Allen Hynek, who changed from skeptic to supporter. Now, all this progress resulted in the formation of the organized research effort Department of Extraterrestrial Studies in 1969, headed by leading Greek investigator George Balanos, and was equipped with potent instruments and even had its own offices. Now, this consolidation effort happened at a time when the subject was a hot topic, as the 70s saw the largest public expression of the interest towards it. First was with Balanos's book, Flying Saucers Intruders, which was publicized in 1972, then with the formation of the PEAF group of our friend and member of UAP Check, Stavros Hatzopoulos, in 1973. And in the midst of all these movements and media coverage, a very notable incident took place 1,700,000 feet above the city of Volos in 1977, when an Alpha 7 military jet was intercepted by a glowing metallic disc, which remained on the jet's tail for a total of 8 minutes. 8 minutes, despite the rigorous maneuvers of the concerned pilot, before accelerating to its front and begin to execute impossible maneuvers before finally accelerating out of sight, leaving him mesmerized. When the then Minister of Defense, Evangelos Averof, was notified about the content incident, he, off the record, declared to other leading government and military officials, and I quote, "I once doubted the existence of UFOs, not anymore." As if that wasn't enough, the following year, in 1978, Erich von Däniken came to Athens to speak on the subject. People swarmed the gathering. There were so many of them that he had to repeat his speech twice in order to satisfy the demand. Despite of whether we agree with him or not, this just shows the degree to which the Greek public opinion had become aware of the phenomenon at the close of 1978. Indeed, such was the interest and so many were the sightings that in September of that year, 5 pages were dedicated to the Greek side of the phenomenon in the Ideals UFO magazine in the US. The decade also closed with the creation of the first Greek magazine that dealt with the subject and was named UFO Flying Saucers. That was in 1979. And then nothing. Silence. For the most part of the subsequent decade of the 80s, the phenomenon largely subsided. Sightings were reduced, contact is infrequent, and a great silence is felt as UAP fades in the background. Until this changed in the summer of 1989, near the close of that decade, when in late August, about a dozen lights would be seen standing still in the sky over a large swath of land and sea, from the Evia region to the Nafplio area, which is a total of 11,000 square kilometers area stretching east and west of Athens, the capital city. About a year later, on September 2nd, 1990, another dozen lights will be sighted, but this time in a straight formation and flying all around the country, until while flying above the city of Antalandi, that is north of Athens, one of them malfunctions. It becomes red, emits smoke, and starts losing altitude, eventually making a forced landing on top of a nearby hill, setting the entire slope on fire. Other lights came down with it and circled around it. The closest eyewitnesses were about 700 meters away at the time and described the objects as circular and being the size of tractors, according to what they saw. They went closer and said that they saw shadows going in and out of these objects. About 5 hours later, they all took off and left, and they departed from the scene. The following morning, locals that went to the site noticed that even though the area was burned up, it was moist and sticky. Everything was sticky. They found some metal and foamy fragments that were unfortunately taken away by the police. And there were also some spherical depressions in the ground, arranged in a circular formation. The Air Force, which was on the site within an hour after the objects had departed, said that the landed object was a satellite. Now, this marked the most widely known and witnessed Greek ufological incident of the time. Alas, in the 20s, and with the entrance of the internet into our daily lives, the phenomenon would be largely impacted negatively, as hoaxes and misinformation ran rampant, and now they had a faster medium with which they could reach the public. Nevertheless, legitimate UAP persisted, and in August 7, 2002, another landing took place, this time a controlled one, on a field in the outskirts of a village called Prinos in the Trikala region of central Greece. This time, a circular, bright metallic object of about 10 meters diameter touched the ground and left a series of small depressions in the ground that altered among circular, square, and triagonal shapes, and they were arranged in a spiral, like a circle or with an opening or a capital G. The eyewitnesses who were on the field the night when the landing happened said that they hid behind their vehicle and they watched as a door opened and 3 short beings emerged from the object, holding a drill-like instrument that they were carrying. With it, they took up dirt, and with it, they returned to their craft, which then took off. These witnesses later identified the creatures as maimunya, which is a folk term for the creature type of the leprechaun. Now, sadly, even though there was much more to be found in that case, the witnesses weren't quiet. They were silenced, and the incident was rather disturbing. 10 years later, the most recent wave of UAP in Greece was during the worldwide 2012 wave, with reports coming to us on an almost daily basis. Many of those reports featured large numbers of UFOs, from as few as 4 to as many as 20, and often seen flying in formation. It has been more than 10 years since this last wave. So we are keeping our eyes open, now more than ever, expecting the next wave or big case to happen anytime now. That was the brief introduction into the subject in Greece, historically. I will now proceed to outlining the methods and principle of our team. We are Er.E.N.Zo, which translates into Research for Extraterrestrial Intelligent Life, and we follow the saying of Hatzopoulos, strength in unity. So we have collaborated with the various teams and independent researchers like Ion Panidis, Thanasis Vepos, and Omiros Karadjas, combining our data and years of experience of on-site investigations for the better understanding of the phenomenon in our country. We are still developing this network so that the data of each of the old researchers is preserved and it is not lost. We accept new members from all over Greece who will be responding to hot cases in their areas and representing the entire team there. Wherever applicable, we also encourage each member to apply the knowledge and skills of their profession to the field of research as well. There are 2 distinct approaches that we use. These are the on-site investigation and the theoretical investigation. The on-site investigation concerns the physical first response to a new case of interest and the immediate search for eyewitnesses, first-hand reports, and wherever it can be found, also physical evidence. As soon as we are notified, we try to reach the site of the case as soon as possible. This is the primary way of obtaining the most consistent and undegraded witness testimony and acts as a powerful scientific tool with which we can obtain empirical knowledge. Those who work on the latter, the theoretical investigation, are exploring new hypotheses for the purpose of expanding our knowledge and understanding of the subject. They revisit the bibliography and the literature onto which a subsequent on-site investigation is to be based, including, of course, reviewing the work of other researchers from abroad, as it would be catastrophic to ignore their data. So far, the biggest project of theoretical investigation, one that took years to complete, concerned the gathering of Greek newspaper articles that mentioned UAP, an endeavor that has yielded over 6,000 articles from the 1880s to this day. Now, by default, theoretical investigation supplants and improves upon the work of on-site investigation. First, we do the work of the detective, then the work of the historian. But we also give much emphasis to technological equipment and proper training, since the combination of high-performance instruments and attentive operators is the key to success in the cases that we are called to investigate. Without them, the probability of obtaining reliable evidence is significantly reduced. The operator must be able to recognize or suspect natural or man-made phenomena that might be confused for UAP, like meteors, satellite, or rocket flights. But on the flip side, they must also be able to discern the actual UAP when one is present. And that takes experience and training in past data, both of which we have plenty. Like George Balanos said, half of those that see a satellite think that they saw a UFO, and half of those that see a UFO think that they saw a satellite. Therefore, we must be careful to call out the false UAP without falsifying the actual UAP. We hope that this information encourages more people to come forward about their experiences with UAP, since we have now begun to observe patterns in its activity. The phenomenon is real and it is here to stay, and that is why we are on its trail. This is only a beginning. Thank you, everyone.